And our final inductee tonight, and this is the first time obviously, it's the first time we're doing anything here, but we're honoring a team, and this team is pretty special. And, you know, the soccer program in Bethel, you know, it's unmatched. I mean, state titles galore, players who have been All-Americans, players who play in major leagues. I mean, it's unbelievable. And this team, you know, you could have said from '94 to '96, but you're talking about 56 1-5, 50 regular season games without a loss, ranked number 4 in the nation in USA Today poll. You know, all New England, all Americans, all state, you name it. This team had it, and you know, it's just great. You know, I never forget being in college and told somebody I was from Bethel, and they said, "Wow, your soccer team's unbelievable." I was like, "I play football." But yeah, and I know that Ralph used to try to recruit all the soccer players to come to either kick or be wide receivers, and said to them, "You know, you can play on Friday night." Just Legnard's son was one of those, and then, you know, play soccer games too, no problem. But accepting on behalf of the soccer team, then he's going to call up the players who are with us tonight. Once again, Ray Flanigan.
Just a couple things before I talk about the soccer team. I was hired by Bill Swanson, and a couple funny things about Bill. I remember that you know, we used to do the paperwork. Everything was done by hand, and I really wasn't having much fun with it. I had my first computer. I had a spreadsheet. I didn't understand why the school couldn't put these guys' names in the forms. They attempted, probably Mr. Dubois, attempted to give Ralph a computer. Ralph couldn't figure out the answering machine. Swanee, I'm sorry, on his desk. Swanee couldn't do the answering machine, no less a computer. I think he finally got solitaire work, and then he told him, "Get it the hell out of here." Ralph, I got to meet Ralph, and when I first started coaching at Bethel, I was the girls' coach. I hadn't won a game in 3 years. We tied one my first year. We won one and tied 2 in the second. And Ralph was a great guy to cry on the shoulder, even though Ralph was very famous for saying, "Soccer, it's a communist sport." Didn't really go too far with him. And I know in the end, when we had these guys that we have in 1996, Ralph would have loved to have a bunch of them, because we had guys that could have played on either sport. On behalf of the boys soccer team, we want to thank the Boosters Club. I brought something here tonight. When we did win our state championship in '96, I think the All Sports Boosters Club was finally just founded. We used to have, each sport used to do their own thing. And I do remember that we ordered a bunch of mugs through a friend of mine. And we had mugs and t-shirts that we were selling outside of Caroluzzi's, but everybody was outside of Caroluzzi's, and it was getting a little crazy. And one time, you know, my budget, Frank Forster, you know, had told me one year, he says, "You've got $500 in the budget." Well, balls were 80 bucks a ball, 8 times 6. That's getting up there. We had $20 for socks and uniforms left. So we used to send the kids down to Caroluzzi's with these mugs and t-shirts and try to sell some things. That was the Soccer Boosters. And I remember sending Quinn Whitty and Nick Swan down there, 2 handsome blondes with their mugs and t-shirts. And they came home and I said, "How'd you guys do it?" They said, "Unbelievable." I said, "What'd you make? You make 100 bucks? They had $900 in one morning at Bethel Food. Not only did they have $900, they had almost all of the mugs and t-shirts, because people wouldn't take the mug. They said, "Save it for someone else." And that's the way Bethel was as far as the way they support their sports programs. They were unbelievable. So I still got a couple mugs if anyone wants one. Tony Fernandez could use some help with his team. But they started the All Sports Booster Club, and the first thing we asked for was warm-up suits. And you know, warm-up suits were about 80, 100 bucks a piece for a decent warm-up suit. And they said, "You know, you guys have won some championships, we'll get you some warm-up suits." And they did. Unfortunately, after we used them, hockey used them. And these guys didn't take their skates off when they were putting the pants on. So that wasn't cute. They weren't in very good shape for our second year. The soccer program in Bethel, you know, great job by Fran Selick for his many years. And the older ones that I would like to thank in Bethel was the Bethel Soccer Association. Those founding fathers of Bethel Soccer cleared Rourke Field. I hear some rumbling sometime. When they ever let lacrosse or football play down there, or somebody, they would always love to get their hands on Rourke Field. But Nick Vitti, Chris Swan, some of the guys that were involved with the BYSA, and Nick Vitti's still involved. They've done a great job down there, and we know how hard it is to get fields in Bethel. So I hope it's always a soccer field. You know, it's a great venue where you don't see a school building in the background, so it's always been a great place to play. The assistant coaches that we had, when I took over in Bethel, this was a job that I know on the high school level, I wanted to provide a first-class coaching environment, and we brought in the Irish Mafia. We had Dunnigan, Flanigan, and Lynch, the four coaches that we first started with when I started in '92. And we won a sportsmanship award from the state referees one year and a sportsmanship award from the coaches the second year. In our third year, that was Sutton's Sutton's senior year, we won the state championship going 17-0-3. This team here, we've got some guys here. We were never afraid to play freshmen, and many of these guys that are here played varsity as freshmen. We never had big numbers at Bethel Soccer, usually about 34 to 6 kids for varsity and JV. So it was not, we never had, you know, Newtown used to have 90 kids come out for soccer. We never were blessed with those numbers. So I always said to these guys, you know, guys, it should be fun for you. We talked about having fun, and I said it's my job and my assistant's job to keep it fun for you guys. And, you know, we try to make every practice fun, every game fun. And we go 4 years with these guys, and I'd just like to point out a guy, Nick Vitti Jr., who was my sweeper for 4 years. He started as a sweeper as a 9th grader. When we're 18-0 in his senior year, going into the semifinal of the state tournament, Nick comes to me after practice, and that's a beautiful thing. Usually it's a parent that would maybe call somebody up, but this was actually a kid who wanted to talk to the coach. And he says, "Ray, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure, Nick, what's up?" He says, "I'm not having any fun." I said, "Nick, we're 18-0. We're ranked 1st in the state and 4th in the country. We got 2 more games, and we're champions. You know, help me out here." He says, "Coach, I don't ever touch the ball back there. I hate it." So I talked to my assistant coach, Tim Hunter, who was a former professional. I said, "Tim, you're not going to believe this." I said, "Nick doesn't want to play sweeper anymore. He's not having any fun back there." Tim Hunter says to me, "Ray, don't worry about it. Let's move him up." So we put him in the midfield for the semifinal. And in the final of that year, we're 78 minutes in, 0-0 in about 18-degree weather in a frozen field in Farmington. And Nick Vitti wins a ball in the midfield, slots it to Jackson Gonda, who gives it to Stephen Demure, and we go ahead 1-0. We scored another goal that game to make it 2-0 and win the Class L final. I'd like to bring them up now, this group. We don't have them all here. They're scrambled around the country. So I'm going to announce the names of the guys who are here. And guys, if you can come up. This is a song that was made famous in the '94 World Cup and was made much more famous in Bethel. As when we played games, it was played after every goal. There was a lot of teams that didn't like to hear when this song came on. So I'm going to call them up. Please come up, guys, when I call your names. Our goalkeeper, Jason Seymour.
Yeah!
4-year starter and sweeper. Later midfielder, Nick Vitti. Ryan O'Connor, another great defender. Ryan Olszewski, who started on that team as a freshman in a back 4. One of our co-captains, Kyle Cleary. Kyle was All-State, All-New England, and All-American at Bethel High School. Stephen Demure, who started for 4 years at Bethel, he scored 2 goals in the championship his sophomore year, was the MVP of the tournament. Stephen lost his mom in his sophomore year and went on to great things at Bethel to probably be the all-time leading scorer. We never really recorded how many goals were scored. We didn't worry too much about it. But Stephen, I think, is the all-time leading scorer at Bethel, having played 4 years. Jackson Gonda was also a 9th grade player for us, but played 4 years at Bethel, started a great goal scorer very fast. The twins, Sutton's little brothers, Adam and Glenn Sutton. And then midfielder Jeff Beatty. Just to let you know what happened to this team, when they were juniors, we were 18. Yeah, you can hit that. That's all right. Whoa. Just hit that iPod. We didn't have iPods back in the day. These guys lost 1 game in their 3 years at Bethel. A few ties when teams used to sit back on us. But I remember that one loss. You know, nobody likes to lose. You know, but and these guys definitely didn't because they only lost once. But we played Han Madison and Joe Barlow in the semifinal of the state tournament in their junior year, the seniors' junior year. I'll never forget. It was the beginning also of the All Sports Booster Club, and the All Sports Booster Club decided to have the fall banquet, the All Sports Banquet, before the season was over. And we went straight from a 3-1 loss with Han Madison in the semifinal to a shower to the fireside or wherever it was, I don't even remember, maybe the Stony Hill, for the banquet. And I gotta say that for a team that really wasn't too experienced at losing, they were humbled, shook hands, and came out of there with their heads held high. And I know that they all were determined that in their senior year that wasn't ever going to happen again. And that's exactly what happened. In closing, I'd just like to sing a little song. When I took over at Bethel, there was, when I got to Bethel, there was always a lot of hazing and stuff going on. I remember seeing seniors telling freshmen to carry my bag for me, and I warned those seniors that, guys, I don't believe in that. Because those freshmen, we need them to play, and many of these guys played as freshmen, and they know that they were welcome to the team right away as a freshman. But we did make them learn a song. The song was called Pass the Ball, Freddie. They sang it on the bus coming home that night. I remember we didn't have iPods, but we did have some little CD players and things like that. We did play Pass the Ball, Freddie on the way home. But in closing, I'll sing a verse, but people used to ask me when they still remembered who the heck we were, do I miss coaching? And I always responded, no. When I see him here, I miss him. But, Pass the Ball, Freddie. Song ran like this. It was, Freddie was by far the fastest kid on our whole team. He could shoot and he could score, the very best of all. But he argued with his teammates and he argued with the ref. And he never, ever, ever passed the ball. Pass the ball, Freddie, you'll find that it won't hurt. Kids will pass it back, that's what makes the team work. Teamwork is an attitude, it isn't just a word. So pass the ball, Freddie, let's make this team work. Deedle, deedle, diddle, deedle, diddle, deedle, diddle, dum. Great pass, Freddie. That's your 1996 boys soccer team. Congratulations, guys. And thanks again to the Booster Club.